today we are going to Ocala, Florida at the World Equestrian Center, and I'm going to be there really soon now. So we are entering in the main part of the facility now, and if you guys want to follow along, then subscribe and like and enjoy the video. So this is our main entrance into the park, and the opportunities here were just absolutely endless. They were so exciting. It was an unbelievable trip. Over to the side, they had some new construction going on as we pulled in, and as you get to the parking area, you just started right off with the beginning of the park. We're here. So if you've never been, just some really cool things about going to the World Equestrian Center is that there's not an admission fee, so you get to just walk right in. You don't have to pay to go and look around. And in our experience, we got to just look and kind of go anywhere that we wanted to. So that was also really neat. So these two arenas that you're seeing here is one of, I think, 5. They had several indoor riding facilities that you could choose to ride from, which was really cool. So as you can see, Kyler and I are pretty easily entertained. They had fun little things like this stacked throughout the barns. You'll also see coming up some other fun things that they had. They had all kinds of things set up for the riders and their own personal health, as well as several things for the horses as far as muscle recovery and things like that go. They also had tons of little shops or pop-up centers that different equestrian businesses would set up at the barns, and it seemed like they were open pretty frequently just throughout the week, so that was also really neat to see. We actually downloaded the World Equestrian Center app on our phone while we were there, and it was just a lot easier to kind of navigate what was going on the particular day that we were there. These were some of the shows that were going on in the indoor facilities. They also had shows going on in several of the outdoor arenas, which you'll see going on soon. And here you can see some of those shops that I was talking about, where you could go. And then this is the relaxation center for the riders, and just a lot of fun art as well. The barns all had the same layout. It looked like what you see here. And the map that we had was a little outdated. We did end up finding a more updated map while we were there. But these barns were lettered, and it started with A and it went all the way to barn X. And they had some really large expo centers that were on site, and they took a couple of those and turned them into barns. And so I think in total, the smallest barn that we saw had a total of about 80 stalls in it. And again, that's the smaller side of things. So every barn, the stalls looked like this, and every aisle had its own tack room. So it was really pretty. They also had an on-site veterinarian hospital that had a full-time farrier there. And we learned that this whole facility could house about 3,000 horses. So I can imagine if you have that many horses to deal with, it's probably worth your money to get a permanent vet and farrier on site. They also had several of these semi-covered outdoor arenas. Over to the side there, you can see some cross ties set up to get ready if you want to ride in that particular ring. This is another barn full of stalls. The little white shed that you saw there is where they dump their manure. Next, these are the jumps that they had just set up. They were using their little carts to pull these around and take them to the arenas they were needed in. A lot of these particular jumps they actually used in the Grand Prix event that we watched later in the day. So it was kind of cool to see those up close before they took them to the ring to set up. I like looking at jumps and getting ideas for myself, so this was just a fun little tidbit for me to see, and also just the amount of it was overwhelming and just kind of jaw-dropping. They had several arenas dedicated to just lunging your horses, and those were marked on the map. So that was nice because if you wanted to ride versus lunge, there was a dedicated place for that. Then they had several of these turnout paddocks. I was pretty amazed with how many they had, and also with the fact that there were no horses in them at all. Most of the horses just stayed in the stalls. So I'm not sure if that's typical or if it just happened to be the day that we were there, but all the paddocks were in the shape of a square, and they were mostly the same size. Some might have been a little bigger than others, but in general, these are all the outdoor paddocks that we saw. Next, we get to see the main stadium, and this was absolutely amazing. This ring that you're seeing right now is just the warm-up ring to ride in the stadium. Over here where you're seeing the purple seating is where the main stadium is at. We didn't see any shows or horses riding in and out of this ring. It was closed that day. Over here's the big screen that you can also see what's happening from, and it was just absolutely amazing. I would guess that the seating over here to my right that you're seeing now would be more if you paid for private or maybe kind of like a suite setting for outdoors, but it was open for us to go check out. They also had several different restaurants you could choose from to eat at. They had breakfast, lunch, and dinner options. We ate at Ralph's Sandwich Shop, which you just saw here, and that was pretty much all that we explored as far as food options go, but they had several things to choose from. They also had these jumps setting up just kind of as advertisement for the company that makes them, and so they were really fun to look at up close. This next area that we're getting into is kind of on the back half of the property, and from the map side, this is where on the other side of that pond where the cross-country course would be located. We never actually found the cross-country course, but apparently there was one there. They also had rings on the map that were dedicated to hunters versus jumpers, and there were several of those. We did watch some events going on in the jumpers ring. The events that we saw going on this side of the property were the ponies in the children's division, so we stopped and watched those for a short minute. They were very cute, and their ponies were absolutely adorable. This is the area where the competitors were kind of waiting for their turn to go. They had this really squishy footing that was just between the warm-up ring and the main ring. And over here is where they were seated and watching the pony competitions go on. This is the first event that we really sat down and watched for a while. This was the adult jumpers division. And when we got to this arena, they were out walking the course and walking their steps. We did get to sit in the stadium seating and watch the jumpers go. It was really fun. I don't remember exactly what the height was. I know it was a $200 division, and it was a really competitive field. The horses were amazing. The riders did a great job. So it was a lot of fun to watch. I did record some of these divisions live on my Instagram and on my Facebook, so there's more clips from this particular part of the show on those sites if you're interested in seeing those. We really liked this horse that's going now because he was just full of energy, and I couldn't help but think of my own horse and his behavior at shows, but you could tell that this guy was just young and kind of figuring out how to work through the show environment, but he did really good. You could tell he tried really, really hard, and his rider did a great job staying with him. I forgot to also mention that there was one line where the steps were not measured right, so there was a little bit of a debate going on about if they wanted to continue riding or not, but it seemed like most of the riders continued to ride. The warm-up ring for this event was back behind us a little bit, but we couldn't help but look over our shoulder and see what was going on over there, because it was like every time we looked up there were more and more horses, and just the typical show day kind of chaos going on in the warm-up ring. But that was fun to watch as well. They had these trails that went from barn to arena to arena to arena, from barn to barn, and they were strictly for horses. So you could rent scooters and golf carts to drive around, but those kinds of things were not allowed on these trails. And the sand was so soft, and it was just a beautiful view. So we took a short walk to one of them. They also had a sanctuary on site with a chapel, and they do have church services inside of here, and they had time set for those, and I thought that was so cool. They also had tons of shopping set up outside of this is the main hotel, and vendors would come in and just set up shop, and we got to check out a lot of those things. We were in this shop whenever I spotted all the saddles that were for sale, and of course had to go do a saddle fitting with a very expensive saddle. I also got to try on all the cask helmets that are very, very expensive. I tried on some show coats, and whenever I checked the prices, I couldn't help but make the sour face, but it was still so much fun to try on everything that I got to try on. Throughout the day, we would check in at the main arena that the Grand Prix was going to be going on, and they had a countdown going for the time of when the Grand Prix was going to start. And of course, that was the main event of the day and the one that we mostly hung around for to see. This is the Grand Arena, and it sits right outside the hotel, so you can get a hotel room that has a viewing of that arena. We had about an hour to kill before the Grand Prix started, so we decided to rent a golf cart for a while and try again to go check out the cross-country course. We never were successful with finding it, but there was a lot of construction going on, so we just went around and checked out the rest of the barns, which again already looked like the ones you guys saw up close. We did run into some more paddocks and things for the horses as far as outdoors go. They had some fun little statues. They had all of the trailers for the horses competing set up in a couple of different parking lots, and I just thought it just kind of put it more into perspective about how many horses were actually on site that day. Also, for somebody that's interested in getting a new trailer, it was nice to just kind of see some up close, so that was also a bonus. We ended up driving back over to some of the indoor arenas that we started at, and we checked out some of the suites. They were absolutely beautiful. So again, these are the indoor suites for the indoor rings, and they just sit right up above those arenas so that you can see everything firsthand with a great view. As we got closer to time for the Grand Prix to start, they turned on the lights and the colors of the arena and everything. It was just absolutely gorgeous. So this was kind of on our last lap around the facility on the golf cart, and just watching the sunset and the new lights come on was really, really pretty. We dropped off our golf cart and went back to find a seat to watch the Grand Prix. We made it on the big screen. We got some ice cream, and we got to watch all of the riders walk their course and count their strides and figure out kind of what path they wanted to take, as this event was timed, and that's kind of how they decided who the winners were. The amount of workers they had just throughout the day was mind-blowing. You can see there's 4 tractors and a water truck just setting up for this ring. So the paces of these horses, the athleticism of horse and rider, it was just jaw-dropping. I took clips of several different horses and riders, and a lot of the riders would compete on more than one horse. So the winner of the event, he actually won, and he got third as well, and was competing on 2 different horses. So that was pretty cool to see. It was fun to watch how each rider chose to ride the course. Even though it was the same course, they kind of had their own tactics and their own ideas as far as which way to ride the course went.
Hit the last one. Hit the last one. Is that just because it's jumper.
Yeah.
Okay. Very lean. Let's go. Canada. Castor Hopkinzo. He's gonna win right here.
Trying to make up time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna change your username or no? Can I change it to magical move?
Here it is.
Can we miss another one?
I tried to record as many horses as I could, but throughout the day and using my phone so much, my battery was dying, and going live made that also really hard. This next horse that I videoed, I got a short clip of because he rode around with his tongue out, and I thought that was super cute because we have a horse named Peach at the barn who also does that, and we just thought that was adorable. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for following along. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I absolutely suggest that you go if you ever have the chance. It's totally worth it, and it's just the definition of amazing. I got lots of ideas for my own horses and clients and riders that work with me, and I'm super excited to kind of bring those into the barn and make their dreams and everything come true. You can bet that I'm trying to find a way to take all of my riders to see this amazing facility.